Greetings. This is lesson 1.2 in Unit 1. How did Native Americans influence American democracy? And the big goal that you need to be getting out of this lesson is to be able to figure out how did Native Americans and their beliefs kind of inspire the framers of our Constitution and the framers of our government, and inspire and, impact the way that we formed our government overall. So if you looked at your learning intention and your success criteria for today, it says that today we're learning how to analyze and interpret primary sources so that we can better understand how Native American traditions inspired American democracy. And you need to be able to do two things at the end of this lesson. The first is you need to be able to provide a description of the Iroquois government before European settlement, before people from Europe got all involved. And then you also need to be able to make connections, compare, contrast, that type of thing. The beliefs of the Iroquois Confederacy with the beliefs that we have in our American government today. All right? So let's get to the document. This is a tough one. It has a lot of vocabulary words in it. So if you have not looked and kind of reviewed those in your booklet, I would definitely make sure that I looked at those words and make sure that you were comfortable with them. So this is from the Great Law of Peace. This was kind of the so-called government that was established between lots of different Native American tribes in the area that is right around like modern-day New York. So this is from the year 1500 by somebody named Deconda So I am Deconda, and with the 5 nations, Confederate lords, I plant the tree of great peace. Roots have spread out from the tree of the great peace, one to the north, one to the east, one to the south, and one to the west, meaning that their influence kind of is expanding in all directions. The name of these roots is the great white roots, and their nature is peace and strength. We place at the top of the tree of the long leaves an eagle who is able to see afar. If he sees in the distance any evil approaching, or any danger threatening, he will at once warn the people of the Confederacy, the different groups that are part of this government. The Council of Mohall shall be divided into 3 parties as follows. The third party is to listen only to the discussion of the first and second parties, and if an error is made, or the proceeding is irregular or weird in some way, they are to call attention to it. And when the case is right and properly decided by the 2 parties, they shall confirm the decision of the 2 parties and refer the case to the Seneca lords for their decision. In all cases, the procedure must be as follows. When the Mohawk and Seneca lords have unanimously, all together, agreed upon a question, they shall report their decisions to the Cayuga and Oneida lords, who shall deliberate or decide upon the question, and report a unanimous decision to the Mohawk lords. The Mohawk lords will then report the standing of the case to the firekeepers, who shall render a decision as they see fit in a case of disagreement by the 2 bodies, or confirm the decisions of the 2 bodies if they are identical. So they're kind of like the go-between people, where they either confirm if the decision if they're in agreement, or they sort of start working out the differences if they are not in agreement. The firekeepers shall then report their decision to the Mohawk lords, who shall announce it to the open council, or to everybody. If at any time it shall be manifest, or be made aware, that a Confederate lord is not in mind of the welfare of the people, or disobeys the rules of this great law, the men or women of the Confederacy, or both jointly, shall come to the council and upbraid the erring lord through his war chief, more or less make a complaint. If the complaint of the people through the war chief is not heeded or obeyed, the first time it shall be uttered or spoken again, and then if no attention is given, a third complaint and warning shall be given. If the lord is contumacious, the matter shall go to the war of paying attention or doesn't care. The war chief shall then divest the erring lord of his title, more or less fire him, by order of the women in whom the titleship is vested. The women will then select another of their sons as a candidate, and the lord shall elect him. Then shall the chosen one be installed by the installation ceremony. More or less, if you're not responding to the needs of the people, you're going to be fired. 5 arrows shall be bound together very strong, and each arrow shall represent one nation. As the 5 arrows are strongly bound, this shall symbolize the complete union of the nations. Thus are the 5 nations united completely and enfolded together, united into one head, one body, and one mind. Therefore they shall labor, legislate, and counsel together for the interest of future generations. So what this is more or less saying overall is this group, this confederacy, is going to represent all of these different groups of Native Americans. So they're all on the same page. They all, can follow the same rules or laws to make sure that they are united and are stronger as a result of that. So if you look right below it, I'm asking you to analyze the document and identify one quotation in the document that either illustrates or represents one of each of the following 5 principles below. These are 5 of the main principles that we have in our government today. It's really what makes our government special compared to everyone else's. The first one is popular sovereignty. Popular sovereignty is basically the belief that people are in charge of their own future and people can make decisions on their own. If you're not 18, you probably don't have that very much yet because you're under the rule of your parents or maybe your aunt or whoever you happen to live with that's in charge of you. If you're 18 and you moved out and live on your own, you might have some popular sovereignty. You get to decide what you're going to eat for dinner tonight. If you want to buy a car, what kind of car you're going to buy, where you're going to want to work, and that kind of stuff. Letter B, separation of powers. That's making sure that one group doesn't get to call all the shots. So in our government, we have a president that deals with ensuring that the law is followed. We have a Congress that makes sure that laws are made, and we have a Supreme Court that judges whether laws are fair. So it's making sure that one entity or one group in government doesn't have too much power. It has to be shared between multiple groups of people. How do you see that in this document? The third one, letter C, is limited government, making sure that government can't just do whatever they want. It's limited to a specific set of tasks or a specific area of life that they control versus letting them just do whatever they want. We don't, most people don't want government to do more of their life or call more of the shots of their life. Letter D, checks and balances, making sure that one area of government is able to kind of check and make sure that other areas of government are doing the job that they need to be doing. Making sure that they're not corrupt, making sure that they aren't taking advantage of the people, making sure that they're not doing anything that's illegal or anything like that. And then letter E is federalism. You might not be too familiar with that term. Federalism is a term used to describe when power is shared between a large government, like in our case Washington, D.C., and then a smaller government like an individual state. So in the United States, we have the federal government in Washington, D.C. that can do some things, but then state government, like in Wisconsin, our government here in our state, is limited to, or gets to do things. So it's to make sure that one government versus another doesn't have all of the strength and all of the power. All right, so after you get done with that, there are a few questions that I'm going to ask you to complete, trying to figure out how this relates to our unit's overall question, which is, what is democracy in the United States? And then what should it be? What was the vision, according to this document, of democracy in, the Iroquois tribe? And then how can we use that to understand how it might have inspired our government when it was created in the 1770s? Yep. See you next time.